This is a special TVLinux. Our regular show should have been on the 25th, and we're sort of busy that day, and the place is closed. So we're doing this live tonight, TVLinux, and this show is going to be a hardware show.
Right. So we're live on Wednesday night, the 19th, right?
Right.
But we may be broadcast on the 25th anyway, so it won't do you any good to call in on the 25th because we'll be home with our families.
So call in tonight.
Okay.
And this will catch, I hope this catches people who usually watch a show on Wednesday night.
That's right. Learn something new tonight.
Okay. And as we do with every show, how do we start?
We start by saying, Shaun, how are you doing tonight?
Great. So let's do the nerd news.
Okay.
Okay, the nerd news tonight. We've got a lot of hardware on the table tonight, so I'm going to be looking at my computer over here. So it's probably best to have the scan do on most of the time. The first one we have tonight is a small budget. The White House and Congress delivered a heavy blow to the hopes of the U.S. scientific community. What has happened is over the past few years, the scientific community funding has been cut drastically by the federal government because it needs to pay for a war. Well, guess what? Last year they said, oh, we're going to give you a lot of, we're going to give you a lot more money. Well, they're saying, not really. We're not going to give you as much as we thought we were. So they're basically pulling back a lot of the money out of the scientific community so that the basic research for the next generations to come won't happen to pay for a war. Okay, here's the neat thing. The New York Chief Information Officer is wanting information on whether they should use ODF, which is the Open Document Format, or OOXML, which is the Microsoft one. So if you're interested in helping bring the open source community and bringing openness to government, get a hold of the New York State Chief Information Officer.
And support Open Document Format.
Open Document Format, ODF. Next one. As we have here, we're presenting this live to you from a cable access station. Luckily, it's not owned by any big corporations yet. So what the Federal Communication Commission said is now corporations can own not only television stations, but newspapers in a metropolitan area.
And the problem with that is that means that there are likely to be fewer different voices being heard because it's most likely that you'll hear the same point of view coming from your television station as from your newspaper, as opposed to having two independent sources of information.
Right. So that really harms democracy, in my opinion. Next one. Okay, a major Australian ISP, Telstra Big Pond, shafts open source Open Office. Well, what they're doing is they came out with their own version of Office, which is proprietary, and it's for money. So what they're doing is removing Open Office from their download in order to make it harder for people to get it so that people are more likely to purchase their own. So,
good luck.
You know, this is sort of a slap in the face to the open source community in Australia. And there's a lot of people up in arms about it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're going to lose a lot of customers. And in the past, we've talked about how poor voting machines are. Well, what has happened is the Secretary of State of Colorado has decertified the voting machines.
As in, they are no longer, they have been designated as untrustworthy?
As untrustworthy.
We've talked about that on our show before because we don't know what's happening inside the voting machines. We don't know if it's correctly representing the people.
Yes, you know, because it's gone from electronic and with no paper trail, it cannot be recertified.
Right. So as we've said before, we are in favor of technology to solve voting problems, but it has to be done in such a way that everyone understands what the process is and can verify that the machine is doing what it's supposed to do and not what some programmer decided it should do or what some corporation decided the machine should do.
Right. And that's why I strongly urge open source voting machines, because then everyone has the ability to verify the machine is working as promised.
Right.
Open source is the way to go for freedom.
Right.
Okay, the next article, you know how there's the best and the worst of the year at the end of the year? Well, the 15 biggest tech disappointments of 2007 is, and the number one is Windows Vista. It came over like a lead balloon. No one likes it. It's a pretty bad piece of software.
Many people are getting that on their computers and discovering that their computers are not running as well as their previous computers, which didn't have Vista on them. Vista seems to be quite an elephant to drag around for any ordinary piece of computing hardware.
And we've talked about wiretapping and technology of wiretapping on this program. And telephone companies. Well, Dodd filibustered it and stalled it till a vote till next year so more input can be gained.
Well, that's good. So they've delayed that.
The vote,
that
yes.
Vote. Okay.
Excellent. I have to applaud to him.
Yes, Senator Chris Dodd.
Next, we've talked about the OOXML is trying to become a standard, an ISO standard. So what Microsoft has been doing is they've been plugging the, stacking the deck, so to speak. They hired a whole bunch of people, they've paid money to different countries to join the ISO Standard Committee, and because they paid them, they're now saying, okay, we want this to become a standard. So this is a discussion on really what's going on and why that is bad for the standards community. And an interesting thing about that is what happened is the whole, because the bylaws say so many members have to vote on things, all the ones that were hired by Microsoft to vote for Microsoft aren't voting on anything else. So nothing is getting passed by the standards committee. So Microsoft is basically have almost destroyed the standards committee because of what they've been doing. And this last one, this is a very interesting one. What it is there's a random number generators are supposed to be cryptographically secure. And what they're supposed to do is they're called pseudo-random number generators. So that means that the numbers produced by them are supposed to be totally random.
Ideally, yes.
Ideally. Well, the NSA created this random number generator, which they think that if a certain number of a key will basically open it up for you. So now they know where the basis of the random number generator is, and they can break the whole random number generator. So it's an insecure random number generator. And it has been added to Vista. And it's known to be insecure by the NSA. So, and this guy, Bruce Schreiner, is talking about it, saying that why are they doing this? You know, and he's saying that this random number generator is going to become more and more important in the Windows Vista cryptographic library more and more, allowing the NSA to hack into anyone who has a Vista computer. Well, that's it for the Nerd News today. The Mozilla Minute, we're really not going to have one today because we've got a great hardware thing for you today. As you can see, we've got a great big mess up here of hardware. And so, Jesse, why don't we start off with what you have?
Sure, Shaun. Our viewers from our previous show remember that we were working on booting up computers from a USB flash drive. And of course, we're all familiar with those. That's these little memory devices. This is an older one, stores 128 megabytes. Here's another one sent in by a viewer. This one stores 1 gigabyte. And I've seen them as high as 16 gigabytes available for around $60 on the web.
Wow, 16?
16 gigabytes. It's for not that much money. And this isn't just, this one's of course portable, and you can put your programs on it and carry it from computer to computer. They're also being used in laptops now in place of the hard drive. So instead of having a spinning hard drive inside of a laptop, you could have a flash drive to store the memory, and you might have 8 or 16 gigabytes of memory inside your laptop. And one of the advantages of that is you don't have another motor spinning, and that makes your laptop more rugged.
In fact, the one laptop per child and the EEE PC both use flash drives as their storage medium.
They're very light and they're very durable. So once these flash media started to get large, even as small as 64 megabytes and up, there's been interest in installing Linux on them and then booting Linux by reading the operating system from the flash drive into the computer. Now, on our show, we've often demonstrated live CDs, and here's an example of a CD with the Linux operating system on it. Now, in the Windows world, people are used to seeing a CD like this that they put back into their computer when they need to reload the operating system, and a half an hour or an hour later, their computer is as good as when they bought it. But with Linux, it's possible to actually run off the live CD without even writing anything onto the hard drive of the computer. And because it runs off the CD, it's called live CD. So there's been interest in not only in live CDs, but in live USB Linux distributions. Now, this is good because it doesn't interfere with what you might already have on your computer. Now, to boot from a live CD, you need Linux on a live CD. You need an you need a computer with a CD drive, and you need a BIOS in your computer that's capable of booting off the CD. And most computers that are built now are capable of booting off the CD with just a modification to the BIOS, which we'll show in just a little bit. So for booting off of a USB drive, it's the same situation. You need a USB drive with Linux or another operating system mounted on it. You need a computer that's capable of booting off of the USB drive, and then you need to set the BIOS to boot off of the flash drive. And we'll be demonstrating that in a little bit. Now, one of the first Linux distributions to really go seriously at this is called Puppy Linux, and their website is puppylinux.org. And from there you can find out how to install that particular version of Linux on practically every different type of external device, like on a CD, on a compact flash memory inside a computer, off of a zip drive. And of course the standard way is to just download it onto CD as an ISO image from go to puppylinux.org and find out how to download it, burn it to CD, and then boot the computer. And I've already done that, and when you get to the Puppy Linux screen, there'll be a place where you go to puppylinux.org and it tells you to look at this particular place in the menu which says the Universal Installer, and you tell it that you want to install to a flash drive, it says plug in your flash drive and click continue. So the process of installing it on the flash drive is really made very simple by the people who are really interested in doing those sorts of things. And it's available for other Linux distributions as well. So let's have a look at this computer here that I have sitting on the desk. And many of you, I don't know if you've looked inside your computer, this is pretty typical. We've got here underneath this big fan, we've got a CPU, we've got slots to plug in cards here, we've got a video card up here a little bit, we have the power supply. And over here on the side we have the CD drive, which is what I use to boot Puppy Linux. But what we're missing in this computer is anything in this area. And this is where the hard drive would normally be. But my computer does not have a hard drive because I won't be booting off of a hard drive. I'll be booting off of a flash memory device. We have several different things that we can boot off a flash memory drive. And one of our frequent viewers, his name is Harry, and he lives in Southeast Portland on Powell Avenue. So, hi Harry, I hope you're watching tonight. Sent in not only a USB flash drive for us to test with, he sent in a USB card, a USB 2 card, which can be plugged into the computer and gives 4 external USB ports out the back of the computer and 1 USB port that's actually inside the computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install this card in my computer. I'm going to plug in a USB flash drive, and then I'm going to try to boot from that. So if you'll just bear with me a moment, I'll tip this back. I happen to have an open slot here. I better take the power cord out because the motherboard is live right now. This is always good advice. Then we let the computer circuitry discharge its charge, which is built up. And then I just slide that into the CPU, into one of the PCI slots, fasten it in. And then I will power up the computer. Let's see, where'd my power cord go? One of these here. There it is. I'll plug the power cord back in. Oh, and I suppose it's best not to reach into the computer when it's powered up, but I'll be very careful. And USB drives are hot pluggable. So I'm going to install this, I'll pick one. I'll install this USB drive into this USB port here, just like, I have to take the cap off. It's a clear cap, so I didn't know it was on there. So let me just plug that in there. They only go one of 2 ways. There we go.
And as you can see it, you can see it up there.
So
there
Harry,
it is.
Here's your USB card and your flash drive that you sent us plugged into a PCI slot. Now I'm going to power this thing up and we'll see what happens. Shaun, have you switched to number 2?
Yep, it's number 2.
Okay, let me see if I can find the okay. Now we see the boot screen of my computer. It's announcing its BIOS. There's the boot screen. It's showing us the refresh rate. And in just a little bit here, it's going to list the devices that are in the computer. It's giving me a chance to press the delete key if I want to change anything. But it says disk boot failure here, about 1/4 of the way up the screen. Disk boot failure, insert system disk and press enter. Now what happened here is we were hoping that it would boot off of the flash device that's plugged into the PCI card. Now I've experimented with this. In fact, Shaun, you've experimented with this as well, right?
Yes.
And neither Shaun nor I was able to get it to boot off that internal PCI card that we just tried. So based on our thoroughly exhaustive testing of several minutes at least, this is not going to work. But the concept of booting from a USB drive still does work. I'll pick another one, say this one right here, and I'm going to put it into the front of the computer because the computer also has USB ports. So I've plugged it into the USB port that comes with the computer, and I'm going to try to find the reset switch here, which is just around the corner. I think it's let me find excuse me, leaning. I'll just push the reset button. That's not it. I'll turn it a little bit more. Oh, there's the reset button.
Okay, scan do, please.
Okay. So we're going to reset the computer again. It shows us its video card. It's going to show us the BIOS screen. And let's see if it boots off the... There it goes. So this is essentially the same as we were doing before, but we're booting off the USB device that is actually built into the computer.
The native computer, yes.
Right. So it was asking me to press enter to boot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Press the enter key. And
Scan do?
this particular flash drive that I plugged in there has a memory tester built into it. So basically it's a diagnostic flash drive. And some of our more technical viewers are used to seeing this. This is basically just a memory tester. It's running a test to see if there's any errors in my memory. And right now it's doing just fine. So in this case, we were able to boot off of the USB.
And the reason why we didn't put Linux on there was because these flash drives are relatively slow.
Right.
And it would have taken a much longer time to have booted Linux and showed you something there.
Okay.
So
I do want to show one more thing from the
Okay.
BIOS before we get away from that. So I'm going to reset the computer again. I think I can do that with the escape key. Right. It's going to reboot now. And I'm going to jump into the BIOS and show you an important setting that you'll need to do if you want to do something like this. So at this screen, I'm going to hit for me it's the delete key. For some computers, it's the
F2.
F2. Some it's F1 or something else, or F10. For mine, it was the delete key. And this is what the BIOS screen looks like. And I'm just going to advance over here to the fourth column, which says boot. And we can see what devices I have there. Device number 1 is CD-ROM, a TAPI CD-ROM. The second one I have is a removable device, and I have that set to USB floppy disk drive, USB FDD. I'm just going to hit the enter key and show you what the choices in my BIOS are. Normally, I would have my second device being a floppy, because I have a floppy device in my computer, and once in a rare amount of time I want to boot off a floppy. But for this project, I wanted to boot off a USB device, so I went down to here where it says USB FDD and shows that as the device to boot from. Now, this third device is IDE hard drive, and it's telling me I have none. But prior to pulling out my hard drive, that would have been the third choice for booting, and the fourth one I could have a network boot or something like that. And in fact, these devices are reorderable. I can hit a minus arrows to move that TAPI CD-ROM down one, and now it's choosing to do the removable drive first. Now, most computers probably come with the USB as the first device to boot from. So I'm going to move mine up to the top of the list. Now, device number 1 is the IDE hard drive, which if I had one, it would show you that was there. And then if it doesn't boot from there, it would go to the next one. If it doesn't boot from there, to go to the next one. So this is so if you want to boot from the CD, or if you want to boot from another device, say the floppy disk or a USB device, you'll need to go into your BIOS and make sure those are listed before the hard drive. Of course, your other alternative is to do what I did, which is to unplug the hard drive, in which case it won't be able to boot from it. But ordinarily, we talk about live CDs and how you can boot from Linux off of a CD, or now we're going to talk about booting out off a USB device. But it's important to adjust your BIOS so that it tries to boot off those other devices before the hard drive.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Now, I'm going to be doing roughly the same thing. Here is my computer, and I've got RAM here. I've got the processor here. I've got the PCI here. Now, I don't have any disk hooked up to it, and I don't have my CD-ROM hooked up to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it, and I'm going to show you what happens when you add a card to it.
Okay.
So I'm going to scan do, please. So I just started it. There it comes up.
PC1.
So see, there's boot failure, insert system disk.
Shaun, that looks just like my BIOS screen.
Pretty close. Can we go back to that? So what we've got there is, you see there's 15, 16. Down at the bottom you see display, multimedia device and display controller. So what we're going to do is I'm going to now shut it down. And I'm going to install this new graphics card. Okay, this is a encoder. So what I can do is hook this up to the cable television or some type of antenna right here. It has S-video in, and I can encode it and save it on my hard drive.
So it's acting kind of like a TiVo does. It could be a personal video recorder.
Exactly. This is, I'm starting out with building a personal video recorder.
Okay, we need to move that over the edge just a there
Okay,
you go,
so
Shaun.
now I
Nicely
do that
seen.
again. Now I'm going to start it up again. Oops. Now, one of the things that I have to do is I now have to,
Move the video cable from the onboard video
from the onboard video
to the newly installed graphics card.
to the newly installed graphics card. There we go. Now I'll start it. Okay. I start it up. Okay. There it is. So now you see at the top, there's a different display controller. The other one was at the bottom, now this one's at the top. So now we have a new display controller on this.
Okay.
So now I'm going to shut down one more time. And as you can see, I have a mess of wires here. So what I'm going to do is I have a USB hub. I'm going to plug this in like that. So now I am plugging in
And,
this DVD.
and we'll need to find our video cable. Here it is.
Oh,
Let me get that for you.
okay. So now we're going to start again. And I do have, okay, let me, there we go. As you can see, we now are in the install and boot to.
So, Shaun, you have a CD drive here, a USB CD drive, and does that have the Ubuntu CD
That
in
has
it?
an Ubuntu CD in it.
And the USB cable is connected perhaps to this hub here that we've just plugged into?
Right, right,
And then that's into your small circuit board here, right?
right.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try installing Ubuntu from...
We're just going to run the live CD.
Okay, we're going to run the live CD.
So there it is. It's
Your little PC card is booting. There's the BIOS messages. It's booting from the live CD. Ah, there we go.
now we go. Now at the bottom, what you see is I can move it like this. Down at the please remove the bug. Okay, down at the bottom you see VGA, accessibility, and F6. So I'm going to hit F6. So now you see what happens is I'm going to be editing some. I removed quiet and splash. What that means is quiet makes the kernel not print out anything, but we want to print out the kernel. We want to see the kernel boot.
Yeah, we want to see the progress message.
Yes. And what you'll notice is when it's booting, you'll see timestamps on that too. And, okay, we're going to boot it. Ready, set.
So it's loading the Linux kernel from the CD,
CD-ROM right
okay.
here, and that's a USB CD-ROM.
Okay.
So now you see all the interesting things that the kernel does in order to build itself inside the computer.
So we see things like USB mass storage support being added.
So it knows where to get from this. Okay, it's still booting.
Shaun, while we're waiting for that to boot, I might mention that I brought this particular computer in because it specifically had the capability to boot from a USB device. I have several other computers that I've tried or looked up the documentation for, and the older ones are not capable of booting from a USB device.
Right.
So this motherboard is approximately from 2003, and that's approximately the same time that USB 2 came out. So back in the USB 1 days, USB was not considered fast enough to really boot a computer from, and it wasn't part of the BIOS of the motherboards back then. But your laptop, for example, we've booted from the USB on that, and we've booted it from this USB 2 enabled motherboard. So our viewers, those of you who are hoping to boot your computer from a USB flash device, you might not see the option to boot from a USB device if you have an older computer that you're working with.
Yeah.
But you almost certainly have the ability to boot from a USB CD, so you can still try out live CDs.
Right. And that's what I'm doing right here. This is a live CD.
Okay.
And it's going through this hub that you graciously provided. Okay, and as you can see, the screen is coming up. It's still trying to work on what it's doing.
That's the TAN screen that we have sort of as a picture-in-picture mode, right?
Picture. It's
Okay.
there. It's still loading a bunch of stuff. And as you can see, it takes a little while because it's going over the USB into the system.
And we're waiting for the CD to spin, et cetera.
There is no hard drive on the computer. See, no hard drive whatsoever. So if we had, okay, we're almost there.
This is part of the Ubuntu boot up procedures to show this swooshy TAN. Oh, that's the desktop.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see icons showing up on our Linux desktop.
And as you can see the mouse moving. And now what we have is a live CD. We can surf the net, we can do whatever. So as you can see, and then there's the system. There's all the, now here's one that everyone knows, right?
Shaun, that's actually pretty good performance considering it's coming off as a CD.
So yes, so everyone knows what this is. Okay, I think that goes there. So we're going to kill this. Now if we wanted to install it, all that we would have to do is come over here and click install.
So
there.
There's an icon for installing to the hard drive right there on the desktop.
Right there. And you're ready to go. So that's how easy it is to do an install within Linux.
Okay.
Now, ready for the technical stuff? We're really going to get technical now. Okay, everyone's going to love this. Okay.
So you're using the demessage command.
What I'm doing is demessage prints out every single kernel command that has happened. So we're going to take a look at the boot sequence. You saw all that stuff flying by?
Right.
Now we're really going to take a look at it and see what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. And what it's first of all doing is it's first of all finding the physical memory. Okay? Then it's doing the physical ACPI.
Advanced something in power interface.
Yeah. Okay, and let's keep looking at that.
Okay.
So then it's going through and it says, oh, what is the, it's starting to allocate PCI resources. It then says, what's the kernel command?
Oh, it's showing us. It's showing us there the command that we use to boot Linux from right there in the middle of the screen. Boot
Yes.
Image is Casper /
Yeah.
Linux.
It's
File equals
it's now
CD-ROM /
Yep.
pre something Ubuntu. So that's the right there in the middle of the screen is where it's booting off of
Yep.
the CD device.
And then what has happened is now it's initializing the CPU. So what it does is it first sets up the display and then the CPU. Okay? So now there is the virtual kernel memory layout. So what we've done is now we've said, where is there swap space? Where is the kernel happening? So then we say, then it goes into security framework. Now it's looking at the CPUs. What type of CPUs are had? So now if there was 2 CPUs, a dual core, it would bring up the other core at this time. So it's now enabling the interrupts. It's then now registering the protocols, the networking protocols. It's starting to set up the buses now. Here, now it's really setting up the interrupt table. The first time it sort of found out what things were available. Now it's setting it up within the kernel. Okay? Next thing we're doing is it's setting up the PCI bridge, seeing if there's any plug-and-play things. Okay, we have the I/O scheduler. This, it's starting to set up the you see in the sort of the center there, the VFS, the virtual file system. Okay, that sort of starts taking care of all the file systems. Okay, it goes here. Here it's doing a lot of the I/O stuff, the serial I/O, the ISA, the network, the app armor, things like that. Okay, now in the middle, it's starting to set up the SCSI. Okay, it says what type of SCSI it is. You start seeing USB in there. It says there's a SATA link. Now, the CD-ROM is what it does is it's a serial link setting up. It's a USB, but they call it a SCSI device. Okay, we're coming up here. We're setting up the USB more, USB more. Okay, now it's starting to set up the mass storage. Okay. In fact, if we plugged in a jump drive, it would have used that as our disk.
Right.
Okay, now you see a squash FS. What happens is the whole system on the CD is compressed. Okay,
and
this
that's
is
to fit more software.
more
onto
software, yeah.
onto the CD.
And that's where the decompression happened. And now the AGP, it's setting up the display. Okay, it's setting up the PCI. It's setting up Bluetooth. Okay, it sets up the network up there, up at the top, ETH0. Okay, the USB. And now we're at the very bottom, you see the mouse. So what we've done is we have just set up, we've gone through setting up the whole computer.
And that command that you were using, Shaun, was DMESG.
DMESG, and then I piped it into less so it just doesn't fly by too fast.
So it kind of breaks it up into pages.
Yes, it allows me to scroll through it nicely rather than just fly off the screen. So that's what we're going to do. Now, what we can do is do that whole process again. We'll come up here. We'll come here to System. We'll say Quit. And we say, we'll shut it down. Shut down. So now what it's doing is it's shutting down the computer for us.
Okay. So Shaun, on today's show, we haven't yet booted from Linux, have we? We booted the memory tester from a USB device, but we haven't booted from Linux. So I'm going to challenge you now. Oh, that's your CD drive. I'm going to challenge you to boot that little machine that you have from a Linux distribution. And I have one here on this jump drive, and this is the Puppy Linux that I was referring to earlier.
I'll take that challenge.
Okay. We want to see it happen. So your computer is still shutting down? Actually, technically, since it's a live CD, we could just power it down because
nothing will be lost.
We're not worrying about our disk being corrupted as.
We just powered it down.
Okay, we just
so
powered
I'm
it down.
unplugging the CD-ROM. I'm taking this and plugging it in here. Here, there we go.
Okay, into the USB hub.
Into the USB.
Okay.
So,
And,
do you want to have the honors of turning it on?
Where's the on? Oh, is this the on button?
That's the on button.
Okay, here we go.
I hear
See
it.
what happens.
The screen is flickering. There it is. Okay, now
that's the BIOS
this is
so
the BIOS
far.
stuff so far.
Okay. Oh, look at that. It's loading VMLinux. It's loading the initial RAM disk.
It's now
booting
the kernel.
And I can tell it's not the CD that's spinning, and I know the hard drive isn't connected, so it must be doing that off the USB flash drive. So it's going to take, I'm guessing, half a minute. It seems to be working faster on your computer than it did for me at home today.
So this computer board I bought for $60.
They're pretty inexpensive and pretty small too, and pretty speedy.
And this is a green computer.
Green in what sense? It looks red too. It looks
That's exactly what my son said too.
so green in the sense of energy saving.
Energy
right?
saving. It's the wattage on that is just tiny.
So Shaun, could you look at the screen there? It's asking what kind of keyboard.
Okay, what type of screen?
Let's go ahead and hit OK to the US keyboard.
Okay.
And then it's going to set up our video card, I think. Go ahead and hit enter, and we'll use the Xorg video graphics. And now it's asking us what resolution of monitor we have. So what would you like? That's 800 by 600?
Yeah, let's do 800 by 600.
Okay.
So
we'll choose that one, and it says, are you sure? So we'll say yes.
yeah.
And it's going to set up X.
It looks like it didn't like that.
Okay, starting X, specs in startup, exited from X, type xwin to restart X. So xwin space JWM to restart X. So you want to just type in X WIN
WIN
space JWM
JWM
and hit enter. Oh, maybe it doesn't recognize your graphics
type
card or something
X
like that.
org WIZARD.
Xorg Wizard. Okay. Well, what we could do, Shaun, is we could choose XVESA, which is a simpler video for style. Go ahead and hit enter there, and we'll see if that works. Okay, there it is. That's
there
Puppy
it
Linux.
is.
Now it's asking us what resolution we want. You could.
We'll do
whatever
it.
you think.
We'll do it at this. Do you want to test it
Yeah, let's
first?
test it first. 800 by 600 looks good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say okay, and we'll accept that. So now we are running a small Linux distribution entirely off that USB flash drive. Right. And this particular Puppy Linux comes with a set of instructions right there on the desktop for what to do next, because they're really user-friendly in that sense, and they're trying to hold your hand as they lead you through the process of using the software.
So what you can do, in theory, is have something like this, have a USB card on it. You need to buy the system, the memory, and the power supply.
Right.
Put a USB on it, and you can make an embedded system.
Right. In fact, it would be a lot simpler than what we're seeing here. It wouldn't have this hard drive, which we don't have connected anyway. We don't need this extra graphics card.
We don't need this.
Need the USB hub. We don't need the CD drive. So that would really simplify the system and keep the power requirements down.
Extremely low, yes.
And that's what you were referring to by Green PC.
Green
right?
PC, yes. So anyway, as you can see that, and the only thing I can say, let's see you do that, Windows.
Well, there's one more thing that I would like to try before we're done tonight, Shaun. And Harry did send in us in that USB flash drive, which I was unable to boot from the card which is installed in my computer here. I've taken it out of the inside of the card, I've plugged it into the front of the computer, and I'm going to boot my computer off of the Harry's USB flash drive. So let me just...
There, we're on yours now.
Okay, I'll hit the power button, and this, we'll see if we can get the BIOS to show up here. There it is. Oh, that's my video card. Next, we'll hopefully see there's my BIOS message, and hopefully it will boot off of the USB flash drive that Harry sent in to us.
Yep, there it is.
There it is. And what I have here is Pen Drive Linux. And as we see, the website for that is there on the bottom of our screen, pendrivelinux.com. And from that site, they have lots of tips and instructions on how to install Linux onto a USB flash drive. And so what you can actually do it from Windows, you can do it from a CD, you can do it from Linux. They give you instructions. Now,
as you can see, there's two versions there. One is Run Linux Pen Drive Persistent.
Right, that's this top choice.
And then the other one is Live.
Live.
And the last one is from RAM.
Right, and the Live is to not write anything anywhere, and this one would load the entire operating system off the USB flash drive into the RAM of the computer. But I've tried that, and I'm just a little bit low on RAM to do that. So I'm going to choose the second one.
How much RAM do you have?
512.
I bet you can do it on mine. I've got 1 gig in it.
Oh.
But you know, if you use the persistent one, what you're able to do is carry this around, you could use that, go to a site, plug it in, boot into Linux, do your email, do your web browsing, shut it down, pull it out, and now you've saved all that data you've got.
Right, because it's saved the volatile data, your home drive, for example, back onto the USB flash drive, so you can carry it with you and not have written anything onto the computer that you were using.
Right. So if you want to have if I'd have Tor and Foxy Proxy. Those are Firefox extensions that allow you to go to anonymizers for security. So
does it have a secure connection to the anonymizer?
Yes, it's good. Encrypted to the anonymizer. And so if you're in some country that either does filtering or snooping, it's a very easy way to surf the web securely and to get by any firewalls.
Or anyone else who might be snooping on the internet.
And it also, if there's something on a machine.
Is that your phone, Shaun?
Yes. Oh. Hello? Oh, Oh, hey, Bill, how you doing? Yeah, we had a great show today. We basically are booting Linux off USB drives. Yeah, I'd like it to be on Wednesday. It'd be pretty good, but we're using 1 gig thumb drives or pen drives, and we are able to boot Linux and able to surf the web and do things like that. So that's pretty good. When is Windows going to do that? Oh, Windows isn't going to do that. Okay. In fact, I'm sure we can even get all the features of Vista onto a pen drive of all the fancy wiggle jiggles in the video without the crashes. Okay. Well, I'll let you go. I got to get back to the show. Okay. Bye. That was my friend Bill. He's sort of jealous what we can do with Linux.
But we're glad that he watches our show
Yes, frequently, right,
It's one of our most frequent callers.
Okay, well, we've got time, and we've got about 5 minutes left, so let's put up the show times and see when we are going to be seen again. Okay, Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 22 live the 2nd and 4th, 5th Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. I'm trying to do my announcer voice. What can I say?
And we're rebroadcast on Comcast and Verizon Channel 23 Mondays at 10 p.m. and Thursdays at 11 a.m.
And replay Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 22 Saturday at 10 a.m. in the morning for all you early risers. So that's our show times. You can check us out any of those shows.
Shaun, if you could put up, oh, there it is. Switch me back, please. We already had it. Yeah, there we are. This is pen drive Linux running off of the 1 gig USB flash drive. It did take a while to load because it's about 340 megabytes. So it read all of that off the USB flash drive in order to boot.
And you can see the mouse running on it.
Right, and you can see how thrilled this person is to have her picture taken for the desktop of pen drive Linux.
And let's see if our favorite application is up there.
In fact, Shaun, this may look familiar to you because this is actually essentially Ubuntu Linux. It has the G desktop. Which one is the GNOME desktop? So things are dropping, menus are dropping down from the top as opposed to up from the bottom on some distributions. Here under applications, we have Office applications. We have email, the Evolution email client. We have various internet things, mail, Skype, for example. We have graphics applications like gthumb, just a variety of applications. And so here another example of running Linux off of a USB flash drive.
Right. So as you can see, we've got wonderful. Linux is very versatile. You can see why it can be embedded into small things. Many, many new phones are coming out with Linux on them. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is Linux is really kicking the whole territory, yes, in order to, because it's so versatile and so powerful and so resource miser.
It's a modular. You can take out the parts you don't need, get it to be a very small thing that can fit in a cell phone or even into a small box that can be mounted on the back of an LCD monitor, for example, or used as a smart terminal.
What is I haven't had enough sleep.
No more caffeine for you, Shaun.
At the airports, those things that you kiosks, yes,
touch screens, right?
Kiosk touchscreens. Most of them are running Linux.
Right, and so you have a much more stable platform than having a whole computer running, because we know what happens to computers if they run too long.
Right, right. And most of it is on flash drives, so that you don't have the CD and the breakage and
Don't have the moving parts.
No moving parts, much, much more reliable. And this has just a very tiny little fan on it. So, well, it's time to thank everyone. I want to thank the crew. There's a crew in there.
There they are. Thanks, crew.
Yeah, someone else needs to get up there. Yep.
Okay,
That's
wave
my
to the screen.
That's my son. That's Garrett. Wave hi. He was helping today. On the 6th of January, there's an orientation here at TVCTV in case you want to get involved in making programs.
That's right.
Garrett and I are going to be there.
Oh, that'll be very educational.
On the 5th, I mean, on the 5th.
On the 5th.
On the
Okay.
5th. It's a Saturday.
Would this be listed on the TVCTV.org
I'm sure it will.
website?
Yes,
Okay.
TVCTV. And you'll be able to get in there. I want to thank you viewers for watching us. I hope you learned something today.
So do you have Tux installed on this little computer yet?
No, I haven't.
No, okay.
No. I just started playing with it today. I just bought this power supply at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.